Thanks, Malcolm. It's a pleasure to be here with Clinton and Teng for this session. So cities are at once our greatest risk and our most powerful opportunity. We know that there's the concentration of human, financial, and social capital in cities, and that they're the place that all of these themes are really coming to a head. So it's my job to kind of bring everyone up to speed on what we did in the advisory and working groups. And we did come down to focus on 3 themes and how we really take this moment where we need to build sustainable and resilient cities and frame the issues of how we're going to do this together. So there were 3 focus areas, as I mentioned. The first was to think practically about technology. And so the term smart cities is everywhere, and it's captured our imaginations. But there's a real need for cities to be involved in articulating clear outcome orientations. What is it they want to do with technology? And to communicate that clearly with the private sector so that you can work together towards achieving sustainable development goals. The second builds on that theme and talks about aligning priorities, projects, and finance. So there's a critical need for partnership there. You can hear it in the list of stakeholders. But it's often we hear about the big picture strategies and then there's a lack of projects to fund. So what's happening in that space and how do we bridge that? And then finally was about celebrating experimentation. And in those happy words, we actually spent a lot of time talking about failure and that it's okay to fail and that it's okay to take risks and that it's very important to talk about them and to document them. Because there are fantastic practices and everyone loves to talk about sharing best practices. We must do that. But we also have to try things and do that together. So on that note, I'm going to add one more thought, which is in that spirit of experimentation. We also recognize that we really needed cities to be with us over the course of this forum in order to test out those theories about partnership. So 100 Resilient Cities is really happy to bring 4 of our cities here to the Responsible Business Forum, Jakarta, Malacca, Bangkok, and Da Nang. And so in our sessions, we'll actually be working with them on sustainable development challenges that they face, with all of your great minds helping them to respond to those issues. So now, if I can, I'd like to turn to you, Clinton, because you've been working with cities to help them do some of that alignment and articulation of their goals. Can you tell us a little bit more about what you've done and how you've helped the city to articulate those goals and then to find the right kinds of partnerships?
Sure, thanks, Lauren. I appreciate the question. And let me first start by saying that we had the honor and privilege to work with some extraordinary leaders who are betting their reputations and working very hard to make some of our cities sustainable in the United States. And as a consultant, we are always the ones in the background providing support, but it is in fact those organizations and those leaders who are taking the risk and providing that leadership to create the change that we imagine together. So that's a first and important point. But I've spent most of my career at PwC working in California. So fortunate enough to serve the mayor of Los Angeles and the chief sustainability officer of LA on a couple of really important projects. So first, creating the first ever sustainable city plan for the city of LA. And now working with the Los Angeles Clean Tech Incubator to really begin shaping the way that mobility unfolds in LA. So if anyone has ever been to LA, you arrive at LAX, the first thing you see when the doors open is 6 lanes of traffic right in front of you. As proof positive that cars don't scale very well when you've got 20 million people to move around an enormous landscape. So what we're doing now is we have a collaboration that LACI is putting together with the CEOs of the utilities, with the critical regulator of climate in California called the California Air Resources Board, with a range of OEMs, the automakers, and also importantly bringing in members of the community to help shape a roadmap for how we're going to very quickly electrify Los Angeles. So if you put into your browsers LACI and roadmap, you will find the Clean Mobility Roadmap for Los Angeles just announced by the mayor at the Global Climate Summit in San Francisco. So the goal is to bring up to 40% of all the private vehicles in Los Angeles will be electric in time for the 2028 Olympics. So we've got a number of forces that are coming together to create real focus so that we can bring that innovation, find those critical questions that we can only address together, to quickly get to an enormous transformation of the way mobility works in Los Angeles. So that's one of the things that we're up to, and we're really proud to support those bold leaders with that agenda.
40% of vehicles electric by the time of the Olympics is an ambitious target, and that's a really exciting goal. Building on that topic of ambitious goals, target, and leadership, Teng Leng, I wonder if I can turn to you to talk to us a little bit about what's going on here in ASEAN. We're rapidly urbanizing. There's a promise of technology. Singapore has made a commitment to becoming a smart nation. What does that mean in terms of setting us up to better achieve the Sustainable Development Goals?
Right. Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for introducing. Maybe I can frame my sharing by answering the why and the what and the how. As Singapore is the ASEAN chairman this year, and we have initiated the formation of this ASEAN Smart City Network. So the whole idea why we are doing this is really because the regional landscape that require require ASEAN to be resilient and also to be able to innovate. And these are the two themes of our chairmanship this year. And the ASEAN city recognized that they could use technologies and innovative means to solve some of these urban challenges. But the key challenge is really the ASEAN city, they would like to seek funding support and also technical support in addressing some of this issue. So that really spelled the reason why we set up this ASEAN Smart City Network. And what is this network? So this is really about creating a collaborative platform, trying to get the member cities. In the first year, we have 26 member cities, 10 ASEAN countries, 10 capital cities, plus 2 or 3 other of their cities in our countries. And we have partners. We have the private solution providers, the companies, the multilateral banks as part of the network. And really trying to bring them together to really share best practices on smart city development. I think more importantly, we wanted to look at bankable projects. As what I mentioned earlier, the key challenges is really about seeking funding support and technical support. So that's where the private solution providers and also the funders, they can come in to help with this city. So that is what. And in the first year, we have 26 cities, 26 chief smart city officers actually. So actually we kind of like model after 100 resilient cities. We got inspiration from 100 RC. So we wanted to do this. And we wanted to form partnership, which is very key in this network. And how, as in like how to set a good foundation for this smart city network. So CLC, the Center for Liveable Cities, we work closely with Ernst & Young to come up with an ASEAN Smart City framework that set as a kind of like a guideline because there's no universal agreed definition of smart city. And ASEAN being a very diverse region, we want to be as inclusive as possible. So we set a framework to help guide the smart city development. And we help them also in terms of articulating their smart city action plan that looks at the smart city development of their cities from 2018 to 2025. And we also bring partners, partnering the cities with the private solution providers. And with that, within a short 6 weeks after our first gathering at the World City Summit, we saw signing of 5 MOUs between cities and also partners, 5 of which 2 came from UNDP, right? UNDP with JETRO and UNDP with Phuket. So this is something that we hope to work towards too, and this is a contribution by Singapore, trying to bring ASEAN cities together, trying to bring partners together, and in this case, we see the private companies playing a very important role to help to move the ASEAN Smart City Network. And moving forward, again, we aspire to grow the network. We're not stopping at 26, definitely. We hope to grow it to become 100 cities in this ASEAN Smart City Network. Yeah.
Thank you, Teng Leng. And we're really excited about the inspiration and the commonalities of the program. Actually, 3 of the 4 cities that are here from the 100 Resilient Cities Network, Bangkok, Jakarta, and Da Nang, are all both smart and resilient cities. And there's some real common themes here. The need to work with city leadership to articulate those visions for their projects, and then to serve in kind of a neutral brokering role to bring together the private sector and cities, and then also linking that with finance. Clinton, I wonder if any of the measurement tools or things that you've experimented with and seen success successfully implemented in California could apply to some of the cities in this region?
Yeah, I think this is an excellent question. And we spend a lot of time looking at measurement because if you want a great collaboration, you have to be on the same page when it comes to what is the baseline that we are starting from, what is my responsibility and accountability as an organization as it relates to that baseline, and then where are we heading together? So in order to really build trust into a collaboration where people can explore options and alternatives openly together before deciding on how you are going to jointly move, you need a good set of data. And that data informs the options and alternatives and things. And once you've done that exploration with these leaders, then they can be far more committed to a particular agenda than if an agenda comes in from the outside. So the tools are actually a really critical unlock. And for us, when we look at what the state of the art is right now, and if you look at the information coming out from the IPCC and what they will be taking on later this year, is thinking very critically about what is that pathway to Paris. So for every year, year over year, how much more carbon efficient must your economy become if you are in fact living up to your obligations under the Paris Agreement? And the Paris Agreement is a very powerful tool for building alignment. So in California, we are deeply committed that up and down business, from civil society and at all levels of government, you cannot find a senior leader in California who is not deeply committed and very fluent in what it is that we're trying to accomplish in California. So, the tools help us explore options and alternatives so we can say year over year, how quickly do we have to move, at what pace and scale, if we were to live up to our obligations under the Paris Agreement. I think there's two other important things. So one, that equity lens. So how do we not leave anyone behind? And while we're addressing climate change, we are also addressing particulate matter, and we know that those people who suffer from the worst health effects from the particulate matter in our air are those most disadvantaged and less able to afford healthcare. So that's really important. And then finally, we are looking to create jobs and economic growth and economic activity that will bring vitality and ensure vitality for the region going forward. So only through those tools can you look at those options and say, well, how do we create the most jobs, or how do we do the most good for people, and how do we accelerate progress? So tools are critical, and the state of the art, I think, is figuring out how quickly we need to move year over year to be on the Paris pathway.
So setting up clear targets on environmental and social and economic fronts. Teng, what would be the measures of success in those veins for the ASEAN Smart Cities Network program?
Right, thanks. So it really goes back to why we are setting this network. Apart from getting people to share their best practices, one key KPIs will be really looking at the actual implementation of projects. So with that, I thought I just want to give a few key takeaways for the business community here. I think number one, the type of smart city projects that we're looking at are not those projects that are heavily digitized. As well as mentioned, ASEAN is a very diverse region. So the projects that the Chief Smart City Officers, they have identified their projects where they would like to seek funding support and technical support, ranges from environmental related projects, waste management projects, transport projects. So it's a wide range of projects. So there's one key takeaway, which is the wide profile of the project. Second key takeaway will be information. I think information is a valuable asset to the business community. All the information on the 52 projects that the 26 Chief Smart City Officers have identified, they're all available in the public domain. So you just need to Google the official website of ASEAN 2018. All right, you can find information on ASEAN Smart City Network, the email addresses of the Chief Smart City Officers, and the details of the projects, and also the Smart City Action Plans are all made available there. Yep. Transparency of information. The third key takeaway will be the Chief Smart City Officer that I mentioned, they are the senior official appointed by their national government. So in other words, we are talking to the right people in the bureaucracy. Often, this is something that the business community struggle trying to find which is the right department and whether the official that they are speaking at, are they able to make the decision. So these are the people that have identified to represent their city. And moving on, this ASEAN Smart City Network, they would have regular meetings every year. So in other words, at such regular meetings, there is strong impetus for them to report the progress of their projects.
Excellent. Yeah. So if I can summarize quickly, we'll see that there is an opportunity for all different kinds of actors to engage in different projects. These are clearly articulated projects, and there are people who are appointed to these roles to deal with the private sector and help you engage. To test this hypothesis, over the next few days, we will be engaging those 4 cities. So for those in the urbanization track, we just encourage you to come to help to collaborate and test this hypothesis that we can shorten the communication between the private sectors and city leaders directly and help each other to solve for the sustainable development goals in urbanization. So with that, thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Lauren. Clinton, Teng.